All right, this is Jeff Townsend with Bay Area Sports Drive. I am here with Victor Conte, and we are at the Undisputed Gym here in San Carlos. We are 10 days out from Nonito Donaire's next fight coming up July 10th. And Victor Conte is here because he is helping Nonito out in terms of sports nutrition. Victor, why don't you tell us a little bit how what you're doing with Nonito?
Well, we started probably about 10 weeks ago, and the initial step was to do comprehensive blood testing and determine if there were any depletions or deficiencies regarding the various nutritional elements, and then put together an individualized nutrition program for him, and then we've been monitoring that all along. And then, in addition, he's doing something called IHT, which the acronym stands for Intermittent Hypoxic Training. And we have a hypoxicator that's a mask attached to the machine with a hose. And the program, he started out and did 15 consecutive days. It takes about an hour each session, and it's broken up into 6 minutes of low oxygen and then 4 minutes of ambient sea level oxygen. So it's back and forth, and progressively sea level air is at about 21% oxygen, and we've taken him down below gradually, where now he's the 6 minute segments, he's going below 10% oxygen, which is over 20,000 feet simulated elevation. So the idea is to stimulate these adaptive mechanisms and to enhance his oxygen uptake and utilization capacity. And he said yesterday that he's feeling great. So he's now done, we did the initial 15-day base, then we took a 10-day break, and then we do what's called topping off. He did another 5-day period, and then a break, and he's just now, he'll finish this coming Friday. He's been doing it this week, his second 5-day topping off period, and then he leaves Monday to go to Puerto Rico. So this really, the idea is to, by giving a signal of low oxygen through his kidney, it stimulates the production of his body's own endogenous EPO, or erythropoietin. You know, athletes use this cheating, but this is a technology that's completely legal and approved by WADA. And this in turn stimulates the production of more red blood cells so that he can transport more oxygen to the muscle tissue, and it's a two-way street. Also pick up the metabolic waste byproducts like carbon dioxide, ammonia, lactic acid, and help to remove those. So the idea is to significantly increase his stamina and endurance, and this should serve him well in the later rounds.
So these sound like very advanced techniques. How did you develop these techniques or these machines, or did you come across this technology somewhere else?
Well, we're using what is called the fourth generation of hypoxic training. This started in the 1940s with Russian aviation, and you know, the pilots would get altitude sickness and because of low oxygen content. So they started training them initially at an elevation of 14,000 feet. They would live high and train high. And then they developed this intermittent hypoxic training, and this is way back, like I say, in the 1940s. And they used 5 minutes of low oxygen, 5 minutes of sea level, and back and forth. And then the next generation was something that a researcher named Benjamin Levine, he was at the University of Texas, and they took a group of 3,000 meter runners, and they had them live at elevation, to sleep at elevation and live there, and drive down each day to a lower elevation to train. So the first generation is called Live High, Train High. The second is called Live High, Train Low. And long story short, these 3,000 meter runners increased or reduced, actually improved their 3,000 meter time by an average of over 7 seconds. So of course this all caught on and people were living high, training low. Then they introduced the concept of these, the tents. And as you know, a lot of the Tour de France riders and people like Floyd Landis and Lance Armstrong, they sleep in these oxygen tents. There's quite a few boxers and MMA guys that are doing this as well. I don't recommend this.
Sleeping in oxygen tents?
They sleep in an oxygen tent.
Wow.
They actually they have units now. The Chinese just recently bought a huge one for $250,000, and they have multiple people train in these. But the reason that's not good for an athlete that needs explosive strength and power and speed is because when you sleep in these tents, it increases your heart rate, you burn more calories, you go into a catabolic state, and there's a degradation of muscle strength and power. So there are, there are guys like Shane Mosley live and train at Big Bear, and this is old school stuff. The new school stuff is to use intermittent hypoxic training with a mask so that you don't have to sleep, and you need to take specific types of protein that help prevent muscle loss and protein degradation. And therefore, this fourth generation, which is the utilization of a mask. So you can also take it up to a much simulated high altitude, like over 20,000 feet, instead of living somewhere like Big Bear that may be 6,000 to 7,000 feet. So you get a stronger stimulus. The whole idea is it's a feedback loop. Your blood goes through your kidney, it recognizes low oxygen, stimulates the production of EPO, which therefore promotes the production of red blood cells in the bone marrow, which ultimately you want more and greater size red blood cells so you can attach more oxygen molecules to it to be delivered to the muscle tissue, and once again to accelerate the removal of these metabolic waste byproducts. So at the end of the day, what does this do for a boxer? You probably won't see the benefits in the first few rounds, but when you get into those championship rounds toward the end of the fight, you see one guy gassing out and another guy continues to be fresh. That's the advantage that we hope to provide Nonito in this upcoming fight.
Well, we've definitely seen that, especially with fighters living and training up in Big Bear. De La Hoya has been doing it for a number of years. Mosley's been going up there. So you're kind of taking that concept, but in a situation where you don't actually have to leave your house and live in another locale. Are there any other fighters or any other athletes that you're currently working with the same procedure and process?
Andre Ward did this for this fight before the championship at Kessler. I have some MMA fighters doing this. Kyle Kingsbury, who recently fought at the Staples Center, is a UFC fighter. He does this. Karina Moreno, who's a multiple-time female world champion boxer, she routinely does this. So I've got a whole stable of athletes. Dwayne Chambers, the world-class sprinter that won the gold medal 60 meters indoor in Doha in March, he does this intermittent hypoxic training as well. So it's something that I don't recommend that boxers live at altitude like Mosley and you talk about De La Hoya. I believe that takes away from your speed, power, and strength. Yes, it enhances oxygen utilization, but at the same time, you will lose your power. So I think that what Nonito's doing is new school, and this idea of living and training at elevation is old school stuff. This is something that is new, and I'm probably one of the first ever to do this with what I call explosive strength athletes. So triathletes and marathoners and other distance runners, that may be okay because they don't rely on power and strength and speed. Boxer, I would highly recommend the use of IHT as opposed to living and training at a moderate elevation.
Has it been difficult at all for you to work with athletes and sort of to build that trust since there were issues in the past? Has it been a difficult transition at all for you in any way?
Of course. I mean, these athletes are going to have reservations. There are some that are afraid of the stigma that will be attached, and they choose to keep our relationship low profile. There are others, and I think in the world of boxing, the one that stepped up first and was Andre Ward. And Nonito knows Andre, and of course he called and talked with Andre before Andre started working. Nonito started working with me. Of course, he's an intelligent guy, and he's going to do his due diligence. Others, the basis of Christianity is forgiveness, and I think there are some that understand that that people do deserve